Hello everyone, this is Joanna the Medium, or that's what I call myself for now. These are going to be messages for the eclipses that we have been experiencing. One was yesterday, July 16th, I believe, and one was on July 2nd. I'm actually just finishing the 6-month messages, and they will include all this information, so they will go more into details. So if you're on my mailing list, I will announce when they are up. It should be within the next few days. If you are not a subscriber to my newsletter, if you want to know about my Vimeos, sooner rather than later, get your name on, it's on my site, sign up for my newsletter, and you will receive a newsletter or a note when the videos come out. But I'm just finishing them, and there's a lot of actually interesting information that's coming out here. So this is something I normally don't do, but I was very much prompted to do this by Spirit. And since it is an eclipse season, and since it is about us eclipsing things out of our life, or things being eclipsed out of our life, I thought it would be very important for me to channel some messages in terms of what Spirit wants us to know. So this is general. Obviously, it some of you may understand it, some of you may not understand it yet. Let's see how it goes. The energies that are symbolic of what you're letting go of is octopus. So this is in terms of your emotions. What are we letting go of? We're letting go of inner stagnation and also being emotionally all over the place. If you are someone who is who has a tendency to be in your head a lot, if you are always questioning, if you are doubting a lot, if you are predominantly the thinker versus the feeler, if you are stuck in the rigidity of your own mind, but emotionally you are kind of sort of all over the place, we are letting go of that, which means we are becoming much more in tuned in terms of how we feel, and that will result in a much less restricted mind. Why? Because when we're in tune in how we feel, we do not let feelings take over us as easily, and we regain control. We regain control of our mind, and we regain control of life. So over the next little while, because I know eclipses can take up to 6 months to kind of unravel, this is essentially getting down to the bottom of some deeply rooted familiar patterns that emotionally no longer serve us. And with that, we have this beautiful Panther, which those of you who know my work a little bit, I've talked about her quite a bit. She is one of my animal totems, one of my animal guides, and she actually just showed up with one of the messages that I just did for Vimeo. So she showed up quite a bit, and she's a master of cleanup. When she comes in, basically the energy goes something like this: all right, everybody stand back, I'm here to do some work. So she will expose some things to the surface that may have been hidden. She is a master of looking at things that we don't want to look at. Essentially, anything that is not in accordance with what you want to believe in terms of your value, in terms of you being lovable, in terms of you being abundant, anything that is not in alignment with that, or let's call it your shadow, is likely to be exposed over the next few months. And I, for one, I am very grateful for that, though I will tell you things, when Panther shows up, it's a little bit like the tower moment. She kind of shakes things up. And when she comes in, she means business. But that's because there's been some energies that has been stagnating, and for various reasons. For some of you, for some of us, it's because we didn't want to take care of it. For some of us, we didn't want to. For some of us, it's deeply rooted, so we didn't know it's there. I mean, we all have various reasons. But she shows up sometimes, I also want to say, when least expected, in order to transform. Let's use that analogy, transform. And eclipses, from what I understand, and I know very little about astrology, I'm not an astrologist, I'm the first one to say that, but when Panther shows up, she strikes me as a very fast energy. It's a very fast moving energy, and she kind of comes in and sweeps things around. So at first it might feel a bit like a mess, and the analogy that I'm being asked to liken it to is like, you know, when you're renovating a house, and before you can see the benefits of the renovation, it first gets messy. You've got stuff all over the place, and it's frustrating, and it's like you're not yourself because your home is a mess. That's kind of sort of what I feel when I get the Panther that comes in. So this is very symbolic of some swift movements and some swift changes in certain aspects of your life. That does not mean anything bad. And I keep hearing swift. It's nothing bad. It can be uncomfortable. Let me give you an example. Let's say, this is a very standard example that I give. Let's say you are in an environment where your environment sucks the living daylight out of you, and you've been there for a while. You want to get out of there, but you don't know how, and you're too afraid. And what if it doesn't work out? What if this isn't really that bad? Whether it's job, situation, relationship, friendship, you guys get it. And Panther shows up and says, well, I'll tell you what. This is not working for you. We already know that it's been established. However, you're having difficulty with making a choice or decision because of these various things. I'm going to come in and I'm going to mess things up for a little bit to get you from point A to point B and get you there very fast. But during this time, you might feel like you are a little bit all over the place. What could this mean? It could mean that all of a sudden your boss comes to you and says, it's of a job. It says, you know what? I'm really sorry. We loved your service, but your position has been eliminated. We no longer have a job for you. And momentarily you'll go, naturally, you'll freak out, right? And at that moment, your fears are exposed, right? Now, anyone who loses their job, as an example, I mean, yeah, some people are happy, but generally it kind of disrupts things because it disrupts the very thing that makes you feel safe. Money, safety, security is all important. We need all these things to thrive. We need it. So when something like that comes up, even though you may not have liked where you were, even though you were hoping and praying for things to change, when it changes not in accordance to how you had it planned, that sometimes that can throw a curve. So when Panther comes in, it may be that your job may become obsolete, for example, and now you have no choice but to move. And it may not feel great at the time, but the point of the matter is you're no longer there. Life has taken care of it for you. And now your job is to move on to the next destination. And that's the Panther. Which incidentally, when the Panther shows up and this card shows up together, when a Panther shows up, it's because she's cleaning things up. And when it happens, we have a tendency to be kind of sort of all over the place. So I'm not surprised to see those cards together. Point is, I keep hearing the words swift. Whatever it is for you individually, it seems to be something that's not prolonged. It's something that's swift. The fox also shows up. And this is an interesting fellow because whenever I tuned into this fox, it's like he's looking at me and he says, follow me, follow me. So one message that I'm getting with this is that this guy shows up when I feel a lot of intuitive guidance with a person. So the fox may be representing a guide of yours. It may represent your intuition. It may represent someone who will guide you to your next destination. And it's important for you to have your ears open. And that is a metaphor, meaning it's important for you to tune in, to listen to your intuition. Obviously, if the panther is around, it's going to be hard, but always listen to your intuition. But also, I want to say, the guidance may come from least expected places. This person or this little fox, that energy, might show up unexpectedly in a Starbucks when you're waiting to get a coffee and somebody's having conversation behind you, and this someone behind you is talking to someone, and this someone says, hey, I know these are new openings in this company, I think it'd be great. And you're standing in front of them and you're going, oh, I'm looking for a new job. And lo and behold, you kind of overhear that information. You may even say, hey, I couldn't help to overhear, what is this? And then the person decides to give you information, and lo and behold, you go and apply and you got a job. Now, that's not a very likely place that you would expect your message to come through, right? But that is what I'm being asked to say. So your job is to make sure that your ears or eyes are peeled, to be aware, to pay attention. Don't make anything up. Like, what do I mean by that? For example, when you consistently see numbers that are repeating themselves, and you've seen them like half a dozen times, chances are it's not a coincidence, okay? But then you hear something or see something and you try to make it fit. Don't do that. It's either going to come to you, or it's not there. That is how I see it. It's very clean cut. So have your eyes and ears open. What else are we leaving behind? I also want to say, any lack of choices, any lack of decisions, any Nine of Pentacles, it's all about value. Any lack around value system, whether it's lack of choices, lack of perceived lack of choices, lack of confidence, lack of abundance, lack of, you understand the idea of lack. Whatever is connected to the idea of lack in you, particularly around choices, I feel that is also being transformed. Now, how is it being transformed? Oftentimes, if not more often than not, your lack experience is very, what's the word I want to use, please? Is corresponding to your belief in luck. L-A-C-K, in lack. So, because this is being shown as you leaving this behind, my intuition tells me that you're going from lack of choices to feeling abundance of choices. Now, this Seven of Cups still is, to me, represents choices and not really making any decisions, but at least it's to me, this is lack of choices. And I know for some of you who read cards, this may not be how you see it. That's how I see it. And this card often, to me, represents self-worth. So when it comes up in this position, there's definitely a lack of self-worth. So since we are eclipsing things out of our life, I am very happy to hear and see that we are eclipsing lack of self-worth mentality, lack of self-worth perceptions, beliefs. You guys get the picture. What else are we leaving behind? Anything that we have been holding on to, unwilling to let go of emotionally, I have a feeling for the next little while, we will be able to let go of things emotionally and we will begin to move on. The Ten of Cups showed up together with the Star. All of this is always relating to a home family of origin. So these are belief systems that are rooted in your family origin. And whatever, I mean, it's always that way. We all know that. Our consistent and persistent thoughts that come from a deeply rooted belief system almost always leads us to the place and time and circumstances of how we grew up. That's just kind of how it goes. From the age of conception to about the age of 7 or 8, our belief system becomes pretty firm. Anything after that, particularly teenage years, it's just piling on top of what we already know. So any deeply rooted beliefs that are contributing to you feeling lack of emotional balance, that is about to be eclipsed. Now, I just pulled out this card and I feel like her eyes just blinked at me. The yellow came out. This is going to be very apparent for you in the next few months. Not maybe for everyone that listened to it, but I would say a pretty good portion, definitely majority, absolutely majority. And it's not a small thing for me to say that we are eclipsing belief systems that are rooted in lack, because majority of us who deal with that, and I do too, I'm a human being, we've dealt with these things for most of our lives. So to hear that after all this struggle, all this time, and all this, nonsense that we tell ourselves, that there is somebody's actually saying, hey, there is a light at the end of the tunnel. You may not have to deal with this anymore. That's a pretty big statement. And I try not to make these grandeur statements a lot, because that's a lot to live up to. But I'm being asked to say this. Now, as I'm saying this, I'm getting a headache or pain. It's kind of a dull pain at the back of my neck. So some of you might actually be feeling that right now. Don't freak out. What I just perceive emotions and feelings across the globe. So some of you, as you're listening to this, might be feeling this tension in the back of your neck. All right. What else is this? For some of you, if you have persistent tension in the back of your neck or shoulders, many of you, this will be around lack of flow in terms of finances. So if you are one of those people, and I use the example of work, if you're one of those people that are in a shitty situation in a job, let's say, and your financial flow wasn't there, and this beautiful animal came in and said, I'm going to resolve this for you. I'm going to take this away from you because you're not going to do it, so I'm going to be your manager, okay? Which means the next destination is a next job or a next opportunity. It's important that you walk into that opportunity, or that you open yourself into a new opportunity with a shifted belief system. Because remember, your physical manifestation is a result of what you believe. There's a debate on how much is Heartstone, written in Heartstone, and how much isn't. But from what I understand, from what I'm being shown from Spirit, when it comes to our entire, let's call it blueprint, 95% of what we experience is under our management. In other words, it's not written in stone. 5% is written in stone. So if you really think about it, it's not a whole lot. It seems that we have a lot that is under our domain, which means we are the ones creating it. The problem is we don't often know that we are creating it because it's subconscious. So if you have any holes in your belief system that speak of lack, chances are quite big that you will be relieving yourself of that belief system over the next several months. And we are all in transitions. All these planets are transiting, and particularly the Uranus and Taurus is all about value. So no time like the present to kind of start chipping at it. And any sense of lack, any sense of scarcity, any sense of inability to attract due to lack of self-worth, all these things are all these things are manifestors. All these things eventually manifest. And I said this on another video, I'm not sure which one, but your thoughts are like the Formula One race car. So imagine your thought is a race car. Your feeling about a thought is the fuel. The fuel in the race car make the race car that drives. So it's a perfect combination, and it's a lethal combination for manifestation. And when we become aware of our thoughts, we begin to make different choices and decisions. At the end of the day, if you're not aware of something, it's very difficult to change it. I always say that you cannot change something you are unaware of, because you don't know what you're changing. It's very hard. But the moment we become more aware, we begin to at least attempt to make different choices. Sometimes we don't succeed right away, and we fall on our knees, and we have to dust ourselves off and say, oh shoot, there we go again, and go, okay, I'm going to try this again. And eventually you succeed, and you begin to feel good, and eventually you go, wow, this wasn't so bad, let me try it again. So any change is not particularly comfortable, always. But when it comes to change of beliefs, that's a handful, because beliefs is what we rely on. We may believe certain things and they're not great, but we always know what to expect. It's safe, it's familiar, you guys know the drill. So with letting go of some of these beliefs, we're also going to be letting go of certain perception of safety and security, right? I mean, if you have a belief system of lack, your idea of security will be lacking as well. There will be lack around security. So, but if you have that belief, you know what to expect. You guys get the picture. So this is beautiful for me to see. At the end of the day, where are we all going? Well, the King of Cups is what depicts the person we are moving towards. If you're a female or male, don't let that sway you. The gender here on the card is meaningless. What the only message I get from this, and that's important, is that we are moving more towards being much more emotionally in control of our lives. And if our emotions are all over the place because we're overthinking, we're not going to be in control of our lives. Now, incidentally, being in control of our lives does not mean being controlling. And ironically, the more control we give up, the more we become in control of our lives. It's a really weird paradox. And if you understand what I mean, because I don't feel I can kind of tweak it. If you understand what I mean, comment down below. But that's kind of how I want to leave it. Last but not least, how appropriate. The card of healing and crisis. Healing, crisis, and purging. Oftentimes, the greatest healing is when we are faced with difficult situations, because it allows us to purge out or to release or to let go of something that is no longer serving. This is another way of basically saying, here's the Panther for you. She comes in, she cleans up, she does it fast, she's very efficient, she doesn't ask questions, she's the boss. But then she leaves and you're left with this new environment, and now you get to start over. Except the environment is cleaned up. Just like the metaphor with the house. The house has been a mess, the work has been done, the upgrades have been done, but you can't really see anything because it's a mess. So you hire a team, and your cleaners come in, and you step out of the door, and you have to get out of their hair because you don't want to be messing with their work. And you relinquish control, you give them the key, and you say you come back in 3 hours, and you come back in 3 hours, and it's done. And it's beautiful again. And now that you look at this beautiful result, you go, oh, even though it was inconvenient, it was a pain in the ass. Now that I'm looking at this, it's really worth it. That's how I want you to see it. That's how Spirit wants us to see it. That's how, by looking at things that way, it will allow us to let go a little of the control and remain solid, and remain mindful during the time of transition. Anything you have been holding on to, unwilling to let go of, you're eventually moving to letting go of something that doesn't serve you. This is emotionally speaking. I guess it would be emotionally or intellectually. And of course, this is about taking control of your life and taking your power back. And though it's a very overused statement, I will say, it feels like it belongs here. It feels like in a nutshell, this is what it is. So this will apply to you in many different ways. This will apply to different people in various ways. I see these energies kind of sort of like over here, and then they kind of trickle down. So I don't necessarily always see each individual situation, but from what I can tell from my messages, it resonates with you on a certain level. So I'm glad to hear that. Again, if you would like to purchase the Vimeo 6-month messages, those will be posted probably at the end of next week. So I will say by July 22nd, they should be posted on Vimeo. Alternatively, sign up for my newsletter on my website, which is, the address is below, and you will be notified when those are posted. Also, in terms of August messages, they're going to be a little bit late. I am traveling, and I don't do my messages when I travel. It just makes, I'm out of place, and I need to have a certain setup. So it's probably going to be the second week of August. I will do my best to get it earlier, but expect August to be late. And I hope this is going to tie you until then. And if you end up purchasing the Vimeo videos, then I hope it that will tie you over as well. With that being said, thank you so much. I wish you best of luck. Let's all take care of ourselves. Let's be kind to ourselves in this time of change and transition. This is an amazing time to be alive. And I've heard this before. I've heard this many times before. And I've always kind of, rolled my eyes. But something has shifted with me, and I can see it. I can feel it. And Spirit is talking to me about it. It is absolutely probably one of the best times to be alive, because you can see a fundamental change in your lifetime. And that's not a small thing. So with having said that, I appreciate your time. I appreciate your energy. And okay, this is what I'm supposed to say. I'm supposed to remind us, that we are all healers. Every single human being is a healer. Whether you believe it, whether you trust it, whether you don't care for it, that's another whole conversation. But every single person is a healer. Therefore, we all have the ability to heal ourselves. We all have the ability to bring elements of ourselves that are unhealed into balance. But what it does take, it takes awareness, and then it takes courage, it takes persistence, and it takes commitment to ourselves, first and foremost. So that is what I was being asked to say. And is that all I've got? I think that's pretty much it. I hope you like this. I am going to make more videos like this. I feel very much drawn to making more a little bit instructional videos per se, maybe educational videos aside from my monthlies. So stay tuned for that. It's very exciting. And with that said, thank you so much once again. I appreciate you, and see you later.